Good afternoon, Laws of Davening, Kuf Ches Yud Aleph, 108.11. We're continuing with the previous Sif. V'hu adin im lo hisker yalav yavo b'mincha shel Rosh Chodesh. The same halacha applies if you forget yalav yavo on Rosh Chodesh. We had a halacha last time we discussed that if a person forgets or he davens the incorrect Shmona Esrei at Shabbos Mincha, that he davens Motzi Shabbos, he davens Saturday night a weekday Shmona Esrei, even though the Shmona Esrei that he missed was, or that he made a mistake, was a Shabbos Shmona Esrei, and he davened a weekday Shmona Esrei on Shabbos. But even though that it's not Shabbos anymore, he still davens a weekday Shmona Esrei in Marv to make up for it, and we added that he has to make a condition. Since there's a debate about this, he makes a condition and says, if I'm required to daven again, let this be a makeup Shmona Esrei. If I'm not required to daven again, this will be a nadav, will be a voluntary Shmona Esrei. So now we see the same halacha. A person davened Mincha of Rosh Chodesh, and he made a mistake. He forgot to say Yalav Yavo. So the halacha is, at Mincha and Rosh Chodesh, if you forget to say Yalav Yavo, you have to go back and you have to daven again. Now, here, he didn't remember that he made a mistake, that he forgot Yalav Yavo, until after Rosh Chodesh. So the halacha is still that he goes back and he davens Marav a second time, even though he really already davened a Shmona Esrei, he just missed Yalav Yavo, and now that he's davening a makeup Shmona Esrei, he's not going to say Yalav Yavo because it's Rosh Chodesh anymore. Nevertheless, he should still daven again, and we're going to see, and with the condition. V'hu adin rotze lomar shenachon gam kein lispal ba'arvis tefila shniya lahashlamo v'toras nadava. V'anu gam kein metan hanal ibnei shein marviach klum betefila zushar yalav yavo lo yamar achshav shekvar av rosh chodesh utefila shmona esrei kvar ispalel. So he says that it's the same as before. What was the issue here? He davened, it was Mincha on Rosh Chodesh, and he davened the Shmona Esrei. He just forgot to say Yalav Yavo. So now if he goes back and davens again, he's not going to mention Yalav Yavo on Marav because it's not Rosh Chodesh anymore. However, we paskin like we do earlier that he should still daven again, daven a regular weekday Shmona Esrei without the Yalav Yavo, and he makes a condition in his head. He says, if I'm required to daven a makeup Shmona Esrei, let this be my makeup. If I'm not required to daven, let this be a voluntary Shmona Esrei. Now that's only when nighttime is no longer Rosh Chodesh, but sometimes Rosh Chodesh is 2 days. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Aval im balayla gam kein Rosh Chodesh, if the evening is also Rosh Chodesh, l'kuli yalma yispalel, of course he should daven a second Shmona Esrei, because why? He missed Yalav Yavo in Mincha. Now at Marav he can say Yalav Yavo because it's still Rosh Chodesh. Da yarviach shem Yalav Yavo, kein kas Magen Avram ve'eskimu me'achronim. Od kasan of Magen Avram, du adin balal yantiv sheni. Same thing, if you, let's say you have 2 days of Yantiv, and on a mincha of the first day of Yantiv, you davened a weekday Shmona Esrei by mistake. Rotzelom reimis pal shel chol b'mincha shel Yantiv rishon tzarich lispal b'layla shlom l'kul yama daha yarviach shispal shel Yantiv v'sevitzlach halak hazeh hadin hasheni ve'eviu b'chadusha b'kiveger v'ayimach tzashak magin gibarim. He says that if you daven a weekday Shmona Esrei on the first day of Yantiv, so you're supposed to daven a Yantiv Shmona Esrei, so you should, at Marav, since Marav is the second day of Yantiv and it's still Yantiv, you could daven another Shmona Esrei and make up for it. And you're gaining because now you're davening a Yantiv Shmona Esrei. Because even though you davened at Mincha on the first day, you davened a weekday Shmona Esrei, that wasn't what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to daven a Yantiv Shmona Esrei. So now, the second night of Yantiv, after your Marav Yantiv, you can do a makeup for the Yantiv Shmona Esrei you missed at Mincha of the first day. Now, while he does bring those that argue on this halacha, he concludes the Mishnah Berurah by bringing the Magin Gibarim, who seems to hold like that you would do a makeup. Okay, Yalav Yavo. Now back to the first case. B'diuka nakat Yalav Yavo. The imshachach talo matar or moshiv haruach b'Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Mincha or sheshach hashar davar hamatzrich alachzol ispal l'kul yam ispal ba'erev shtayim. He says, we are only talking about our first case where we're talking about forgetting Yalav Yavo on Mincha of Rosh Chodesh. We're only talking about missing Yalav Yavo because when it's Marav after, you don't say Yalav Yavo anymore. So that's when we had that whole discussion if you're going to go back and daven again. But if you forgot something like V'sein Talo Matar or Mashiv Haruach, which for sure you So in that case, for sure, you need to go back, because at Mariv you can still say Mashiv Haruach over saying Talar Matar. So Rosh Chodesh. So Im Chav Rosh Chodesh be'erev Shabbos, v'ayev Rosh Chodesh rak Yom Echad. Let's say another case, similar case. Friday is Rosh Chodesh, but it's only one day. Shabbos is no longer Rosh Chodesh. V'shachap mincha lasker shel Rosh Chodesh v'nisker achar chashecha. So Friday is Rosh Chodesh. On Mincha you forgot to say Yalav Yavo, and you remember when it's already Shabbos and it's no longer Rosh Chodesh. So what can you do? So ein lahashlim klal belal Shabbos came into ein u'mal klum v'rak shiachol leispal benedava ve'ein mispal tefillas nadav v'Shabbos. So here you're stuck. You can't do anything. Now what's the reason? If you remember, because we said usually when it's not Shabbos after, you daven with that whole condition. And you say, if I'm not required to daven now, let it be a voluntary Shmona Esrei. But since now it's Shabbos, Friday night is Shabbos, we mentioned that you're not allowed to do a voluntary Shmona Esrei on Shabbos, so you're stuck. So if you forget Yalav Yavo at Mincha of Rosh Chodesh, and it's Friday, and Shabbos is not Rosh Chodesh, you're stuck. Nothing you can do. Im lo hispil im hispal shachris b'yom rishon shel Pesach u'b'yom Shmini Atzeres kishemashlim b'mincha hispal tefillah Shabbos. Now another. So let's say Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres, we start saying Mashiv Haruach. We at Shachris of Shmini Atzeres we did not say Mashiv Haruach. So now Mincha we do say Mashiv Haruach. So let's say I forget to daven, or let's say I make a mistake and I daven Shachris of Shmini Atzeres. I make a mistake, I forgot to daven Shachris of Shmini Atzeres. So the Mishnah Berurah says, now even though Shachris of Shmini Atzeres I was not supposed to include Mashiv Haruach, when I make it up at Mincha, I do include Mashiv Haruach. Al Mincha b'yom shelifnei yom shemaschil lomar tein lomar talo matar mispal arv shtayim yishal matar rishnayim. Let's say the Mincha before at Mariv is the first Mariv, we start saying v'sein talo matar on that day. And that's, so let's say the Mincha before, you forgot to daven. So the Shemona Esrei you missed, you did not mention V'sein Talamatar. But Marv, when you make it up, you will say V'sein Talamatar. So what do? So he says when you make it up, you say V'sein Talamatar. But the Yevadim lo sha'al b'shal tashlumin yatsa v'ayin beralach. And he says, but in the tashlumin, if the makeup, you did not mention V'sein Talamatar, you fulfilled your obligation. Okay, so a lot of details there. Hard to remember everything. But just to summarize this halacha, the main halacha that we did is that if you forget Yalav Yavo on Mincha of Rosh Chodesh, and Mariv the next day is no longer Rosh Chodesh, so what you do is you daven a second Mariv, but you make a condition. You say, if I'm required to daven again, this counts as a makeup. If I'm not required to daven again, it counts as a voluntary Shmona Esrei, a Tfilas Nadava. And since if the next day if the case is where Rosh Chodesh is on Friday, and now, therefore, Mariv is on Shabbos, then I'm stuck because I can't daven a Tfilas Tashlumin. I can't do a makeup davening on Shabbos. Again, a lot of details here. If you have any questions, want to discuss further, please reach out, send me an email, give me a call. Would love to hear from you.